Can we get this fucking show on the road?
Is it working?
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Tango Talks. Today is Tuesday, April 29th, and this is Season 1, Episode 5 already.
Good afternoon, Tango. How are you today?
Not bad, not bad. We still stumble on our scripts a little bit, even though we sit here for a good while beforehand going, okay, I'll do this, you do that, I'll do this. We'll get the hang. We're getting better.
We're getting better.
Much, much better.
I think so.
Yeah, no, I'm doing good. I, did some, worked on my 3D carved sign for the funeral home today and tried to set up a new computer for the show. And yeah, that's about it. I'm busy.
Nice.
How about you?
Same. Not those things exactly, but been busy at work today. Worked all day. It's getting busier in my program at work. So.
Did you make anybody cry today?
No, I try to keep that at bay.
That's my number one question when I come home from work. I always ask Steven, you make anybody cry today? And he goes, well, I did make this one girl cry. I'm like, yes, that's what I want to hear. I want to hear that everybody's having a good day when I got to work. So today we don't have any guests. Actually, I think this is supposed to be your part. I think I took it over.
That's okay.
But
that's fine. No guests today. We're going to be discussing work ethics, mixing family time with work time, days off, kids, vacations.
Dealing with customers.
Is it fair to the business? That's what we're going to ask you guys.
And hopefully we'll start getting some people calling it.
Yeah.
That would make this a lot more fun and easier for us instead of us just trying to fill in all the gaps.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Today's drink is the grape. Well, we're using grape, but it's a grape summer cooler.
Yep.
And it's made with vodka and your favorite little packet that you put in your water. I know if, our friend Terry Jo, she brings them with her all the time. She pours them in when we go to dinner and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yep.
But this thing's very, very dangerous. I know the video you showed me. They showed mixing a whole bottle of vodka.
Yeah.
And that might be us this summertime in the pool. A bottle of vodka each. Yeah. You can have your Cabo. I'll stick with oh, I know that's tequila.
Yeah. The Tito's.
two bottles of Tito's and a packet of flavored mix, and we're good to go.
Yeah. You just pour it over ice and you add your favorite soda too. We just added blackberry ginger ale to this one, which made it nice and fruity.
Oh, okay.
So it tastes really good. You can literally drink whatever is your favorite soda.
These are going to be dangerous. These are.
I know.
Really taste like we're just drinking flavored water, even though I know there's vodka in there. I think this is one of my favorite parts about doing this show is that we get to try out new drinks every episode.
And folks, if you hear us fall off the chairs, we probably really fell off the chairs. So it's not an add-in.
It's not a sound clip.
Oh, of course, it's National Day. We like our National Days.
Again, some of these are, we don't get to find really fun stuff every day. But sometimes we have some good ones. We've had, like the last time we had some good ones on there. But it's not too bad today. From nationaltoday.com, today is National Zipper Day. How you all feel about zippers, but I prefer mine down. I can see the look on Angela's face. She's like, what's he going to say? What's he going to say?
Knowing you, I knew you were going to go right in that direction.
Anyways, Elias Howe invented the first zipper and got a patent for what he called the automatic continuous clothing closure in the 1800s. However, neither did he market his product nor did he get any recognition for it. Nevertheless, it was precisely a decade after this device received its first patent that it would actually be called the zipper. The term was coined by B.F. Goodrich in 1923 because of the sound it made. National Zipper Day helps to put the humble zipper back in the spotlight, even if it is for just one day.
Oh,
I know.
Congratulations, Zipper.
Zip.
also National Dance Day. Woo, woo. The Dance Committee of the International Theater Institute established April 29th as International Dance Day in 1982 to highlight the amazing diversity and talent of dancers all over the globe. This date was chosen because it marks the birthday of Jean Georges, or does that say Jorges? Jorges Navarra?
It depends. If we're on RuPaul's Drag Race, it's George's.
Okay, Georges. And looks like he was born 1727 through 1810, and he was the creator of modern ballet. Lindy Hop, jitterbug, freestyle, tango, ballet, and more, the art of grooving and swaying our bodies is celebrated in International Dance Day on April 29th. I like that.
I always wanted to learn how to do the tango. Don't forget, friends, we need those likes, shares, and follows so we can grow the show. Our goal is 1,000 likes, follows. Excuse me. Because
Rewind.
my Kool-Aid's kicking my arse.
Rewind and repeat.
Yes, okay. Don't forget, friends, we need those likes, shares, and follows so we can grow the show. Our goal is 1,000 likes or follows. We actually can't advertise the show until we get to 1,000 points. I found that out when I was trying to set us up for some marketing, and they wouldn't let us do anything until we have a base of 1,000 people. So help us get to that point. And you can also call or text before, during, and after the show at 315-801-9655 or at talk@tangotalk.live. And we certainly would appreciate that.
Yes. 1,000 likes and follows. That's the goal.
It's a long ways from where we are now, but we'll get there. It's going to
happen. Just see it, Tango. Just see it.
Oh, so I guess we're on to our main subject for today.
The grape cooler's hitting already.
Oh, my goodness. It's just, I think it's been a longer day than I thought it was.
Yeah, I think you're right. We feel kind of out of our groove maybe a little so far.
Maybe. I had to carve this sign 3 times today, and it still didn't come out right. So maybe that's what's throwing me off. I don't know. But so... Again, like I said the last time, I always think of these subjects like the night before the show, and I really need to try to get into a schedule of looking for ideas earlier in the week or like the week before. Like, so after tonight, start looking for ideas or something. Yeah. So I'm not crunching for stuff. But I just thought it might be interesting. I don't know if we want to call it, maybe it's not, maybe work ethics are too strong of a word, but people don't realize when you do, when you are running your own business and your employees want a raise, it's not just, well, here's your $5. It's $5 compounded by the taxes we have to match and the Social Security and the insurance and everything else that goes into a paycheck, so and it's hard to explain to an employee that I would love to give you $100 a week more, but without knowing what goes into that.
Because that one is.
Most employees don't realize what goes into giving, a $2 or $3 raise. There's the compounded taxes that, most businesses have to pay into as well as the employee. There's insurance, Social Security, all that other withholding stuff that, running a business too, that it's expensive having employees, So I think I wanted to just talk about, what it's like having employees and even business partners, you know what I mean? Some of the things that may or may not be fair for businesses. Depending on your point of view, I guess, I don't think that I know I have a hard time with the whole pregnancy leave. You know what I mean? It's like, well, I didn't get you pregnant. You know what I mean? So why should I be liable for paying for that? And just like, we had an employee who took father leave for his last child, which is doubly, in a small business when you've only got 4 people working, to have one person out for 3 or 4 weeks, it's difficult.
Right. Right. I see what you're saying there. And the thing is like, I don't see, it's really hard for me to be one way or the other with that, because I can kind of see it from both sides. Like, I've owned my own businesses, so I know what it's like to come up with the funding for everything. You really have to have so much of a percentage in sales or whatever it is you're doing, whatever business it is, in order to pay your employees what they're worth.
Right.
And with that, you kind of have to be able to match what other employers are doing too, because why do they want to work for you
Correct.
when they can go work for somebody else? You know what I mean? So, and what I mean by that is a smaller business is going to more than likely pay their employees a little bit less, especially when they're starting out, but the employee themselves may have more fun working in those positions because of the types of positions they're in. They
Correct.
could, so
Right.
that the fun is taking over for the amount of money that they should be making, because some people say it's not always about the money, it's about whether or not you love your job.
Right.
Right.
So, and I've always said that since even when I bought my first business back when I was 22, that, when it gets to the point where I'm no longer enjoying doing it, then I'll just stop it, because the whole point, at least for me, and I would think it's the same for most small business owners, is that you do it because it's something that you love to do. So when for me, if it gets to the point where it's not fun and it's just, it's a worry every day, and it's, are my employees coming in? Are things getting done? Can I depend on the people that I'm working with? When it gets to that point, then, I'm probably going to
dissolve.
I've got so many things in my head. I'm trying to organize my thoughts into a coherent pattern, and
I'm trying to read your face to come up with the answer, because I know what you're saying.
I don't want to come across as a dick. You know what I mean?
No, and I don't think that you do. I just think that bottom line is there's a difference between small business and corporate America. Corporate versus the job, the small town, small business that we hope all of our patrons are the people that live in our area.
Right.
But that's not always the case either. So again, that brings us back to the amount of money they get paid, that, everything kind of falls on that.
True. I agree. It's just, I'm losing my train of thought on this left and right. I'm trying to be very, very careful with my words. So I don't want anybody to listen to us and be like, are they talking about me?
All right, well, let's get this straight. We're not talking about anyone.
Correct.
We're just talking in general, because this is, this really is something that is close to our hearts, because, right. I've owned my own businesses. I've owned a couple of them. You are currently in your own business right now, and you started many years ago, and you're trying to continue and support it with ever-changing prices and, finding the right people. I mean, let's face it. I mean, in what you do, you need skilled people.
Oh, not only that, but you also have to always stay ahead of that. I call the technology curve. You know what I mean? And I don't care what business you're in, because I think whatever career or business you're running, you can find. I don't know. I have such a hard time with this. I want to bang my head. I have a good thought going. I just lose it. I'm going to be editing the fuck out of this thing. But so again, ahead of the technology curve, you want to be able to. You have to know. And again, that's where I was going with, is that no matter what business you're in, there's always some kind of curve that you're trying to stay ahead of. And like from my field, which is mostly graphic and printing and apparel and awards and stuff like that, you have to pay attention to the trending thing, you know what I mean? And what people are doing to get those orders in and out the door as fast as possible. I had a business partner years ago who just couldn't understand that. If you're standing there by the door drinking a cup of coffee and orders aren't going out the door, I'm not going to pay you. You're not going to get a cut of the profits if you're not doing your share of the work. And
right.
he just couldn't understand that. We just kept butting heads over that. It's like, but don't you understand? If product's not going out the door, we're not making money. You know what I mean?
But I think that's really hard too in your situation, because you've got so many other businesses that are doing that on such a larger scale. So how do you keep that as your...
You have to. So, when I bought my shop back in 95, really the only thing around was screen printing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was one of the first in the area to start exploring the use of transfers. And, we've used inkjet transfers, we've used laser transfers, we've used sublimation transfers. And, you learn quickly, like, which ones are going to work for you and which ones aren't going to work for you as far as time, cost, profit ratio. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It makes no sense to me to spend 25 minutes on a mug or one shirt and only charge $20 for it. It just doesn't make sense. So when I say staying ahead of that technology curve, it's just a matter of, knowing in your field and your competitors, like, what are they doing? How are they getting all these things out the door so fast? Are they using some kind of new technology that we haven't heard of? And I just think it's really important for especially small businesses, especially since COVID, to make sure that you're paying attention to what your customers want and how fast they want it and the sacrifice. Did you ever hear that triangle thing where you can have quality, quick, or price, but you can't have all three. You know what I mean? So you can have a quality product, but you're going to pay for it, or you can have a quality product and whatever. I forgot how that triangle works out, but I always try to think of that. It's like, I can do it fast for you, but you're probably not going to get the quality, or I can do it fast for you, but it's going to cost you a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you can't have all three sides of that triangle.
Right. You can't have the product that you want at the price that you want in the time that you want.
Correct.
So you've got to have you have to come to some happy medium.
Correct.
With that. So yeah, I get it, because like we were just saying, like you can do 200 mugs and I know the quality of the mugs that you're going to give me. So I'm going to be willing to pay the price and I'm going to wait the time that I need to do it. So I'm going to call you in the amount of time that it takes you to do all of those mugs that I just asked for. And I'm going to get them at the price because I'm going to know that the price is might be a little bit higher, but it's because you've got the personal touch. Now, some of these other companies, here's the difference right here. Now you've got corporations that can beat you literally all the way around because they've got the people. They can get mass quantities of mugs and they can give the people that are ordering the prices that they want. They can only do that because of the size of their company.
Right.
They have the means to do that. They have the money to do it, to make the purchase, to make the money back, and to give it to you for the price that you want it, in the time you want it.
But I don't know if you necessarily get the quality sometimes.
Right. Well, and that's something that's going to go, of course, quality is always going to go by the wayside because now you're talking mass production as opposed to something that's got a more tailored, finer touch. Yeah.
So I get my balls broken quite a bit at work over the whole. My husband works for a company, and I won't say who.
Yeah.
And they're strong proponents of managing your work think it's work life or work home, work life, uh, finding a balance in there. You know what I mean? It's not good for an employee to be on a work schedule 24/7. You know what I mean? Work brain. And it's obviously not good for the company if somebody's too focused on, I hate to say, again, I'm going to sound like a dick, but too focused on family. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think it's a hard mix. I know I had difficulty at times when I first started first bought my business and expanded it, and mixing work time and family time. You know, you want both, and sometimes you can't have both. You know, sometimes business would flow over, and back then nobody cared about work family time. You know, work life time. It's like, you want to have a business, you work 24/7.
Right.
You know? And people do it, and I did it for 10 years. You know, but it makes it not fun.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, but see, that's the thing, though. I think you're saying it right there. It's like, really, nobody loves your business as much as you do. So, like, you put all your blood, sweat, and tears into your business, and you hope that your business partners or the people that you hire feel the same exact way. But that's not always the case. No. There's always somebody working harder.
You learn, you know, from experience.
Yes, from my own businesses, you know, that have gone, you know, I've had 2 businesses go under, you know, literally because we as partners just did not get along.
Right.
You know, I mean, we started out as great friends, and that's the sad part. A lot of times you get into business with your friends and you lose friends because a business doesn't work out. But not everybody's always on the same page, you know, but when you work for a company, they really do stress that work life is work life and home life is home life. Yeah. So don't spend your time behind the computer forever. Get home and spend time with your family. Go on vacations. Take your holidays. Do those types of things. But for those of us who've owned our own businesses, we know we take vacation. We're on a holiday. We do any of those things, then that's our production time going down the drain.
Correct. And none of this is set in stone. I mean, obviously, that's the ideal mix.
Yeah.
You know, but obviously you're going to have times of the year where, you know, oh my goodness, I got 35 signs I got to do by Friday. So obviously that week, maybe it's a little bit more, business oriented, you know what I mean, work oriented than I am family oriented. But going back to like when I first bought my business, the first thing I told myself was, my family will come first, my friends will come second, and then my business will come third. You can always make more money. I mean, I firmly believe that. I don't care what people say. There's always a way to make money, but you can't make time.
Yeah.
You know, once the day's gone, the day's gone.
The day's gone.
You know, and the other thing I'm a strong believer in is that if your work hours are whatever, like mine happened to be from 6 to 4. That's my work time, 6 to 4. And probably 90% of the time, if I can't get it done in that work time, I will do it the next day I commit. Now, again, not set in stone, because obviously, you know, things change. You know what I mean? There may be a day that I have to take and do something here, or, you know, do something family oriented, and vice versa. There are days where I may have to come in at 5, or, you know, and leave at 6, you know. So again, I'm not saying any of this is set in stone, but I'm a firm believer of, that's my grape cooler coming back up on me there. Sorry, people. It caught me mid-word. But, you know, I'm just a firm believer in, you got to love what you're doing. You know, if you don't love or at least like it a lot, what's the point? You know, the money, I don't know. I've never done things solely for the sake of money. You know, I do things because I enjoy doing it, and, you know, I want to continue doing it. And, you know, the money's great, but, you know, it's not the not the end all means.
But I think too, like when you do own your own business and you are spending a lot of time at work, and some of those things that we talked about are suffering, like maybe your home life suffers a little bit, you know, I'm talking things like your lawn getting mowed and you doing your garden work and those types of things. You know,
Right.
it's going to suffer because you're spending that time that you need to at work.
Right.
Now, I used to own a day spa and I absolutely loved what I did. You know, I'm a licensed esthetician and I am also a nail tech.
What was that first word?
A licensed esthetician. So I did skincare.
Oh, I don't think I've ever heard that word before.
Oh, yeah. So I went to school for that and I became, you know, an esthetician and I absolutely loved it. Loved it more than the nail part of things. I mean, I just did that because when I first started out in that career, it was something to kind of supplement my income, you know? So I did manicures and pedicures and whatever. But I'm going to tell you, my job was physically taxing. I mean, working on hundreds, I'm not talking, you know, one or two people, hundreds of people in a day is like, or in a week, you're fatigued by the end of the week. It's just not a job that can easily support your physical well-being. It just doesn't,
Right,
you know?
right.
So somewhere in there, you have to find that balance because it's going to kill you. You know, it literally will.
I agree. And, you know, the sad part of, well, you know, I'm 59. So the sad part of getting older in a field that goes both ways, actually, like there could be a week of just doing artwork. So I'm just behind the desk all day long. And then there could be a whole month of just doing signs and banners and this and that and everything else in between, you know? And it's sad because there has been some accounts that we had to let go because I was physically unable to do them anymore, especially after, you know, getting the neuropathy in my feet. You know, we used to do a local bus company and there was a great job. It was, you know, we were getting $2,000 to $3,000 per bus, you know, which was awesome. Right. But when we first started doing it, it was like, oh, this is great. I get to work out in the sun, put the bus together. Yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Then you go 5 or 6 years down the road and you're like, I just can't, it's an all day job for me. You know, this just isn't, it's not enjoyable anymore. I'm beat. It got to the point where I do a bus. I was like, all right, I gotta go home. I'm exhausted. I just, you know, I'd be covered in sweat, you know, from doing these buses. And you hate to say let go of the money, but again, going back to, you have to look after your health. Otherwise you're not gonna have you're not gonna be able to do anything. You know what I mean? So it's a give and take type thing.
But, you know, I think that's why, you know, have you ever heard that saying, don't, you know, like if you love to cook, don't become a chef. Because
you'll do it so much that you'll hate to cook.
Yeah, then you'll hate to cook.
Well, it's like I told you, what was it, the episode? I don't remember what episode it was, but I was talking about the people in the Stouffer's chocolate factory.
Yeah.
Russell Stover's.
Yeah.
Like, you can eat all the chocolate you want that comes by you on the conveyor's belt.
Yeah.
And again, if I'm wrong, people call me out on it. I don't mind. But this is what I was told.
Yeah.
But after a week, you're not going to even want to smell chocolate. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because I know how I would be. At the first, I'd be like eating every dark piece of chocolate. They'd be like, "There's no chocolate in the boxes, dude. You got to leave some for the
leave some for the customers." Yeah.
But yeah, after a week, you're like, I don't even want to.
I don't even need to.
Anymore.
Yeah. So I mean, I think, you know, like you're saying, as we get older, our physical bodies can't handle some of the tasks that are involved in those types of jobs. But in your job, I think one of the great things is you always have that creativity factor. So the mere fact that you can sit behind a computer and come up with designs, or just in your head come up with designs and draw your plans or do whatever you do.
But sometimes that is more exhausting than
the actual physical work,
than lettering five vehicles, because you can have a physical exhaustion and then there's a mental exhaustion
as well.
You know, and being in a business that's primarily sports based, it gets exhausting hearing, you know, well, you just want block lettering and a line underneath, and then like, really, can we just once, just give me something, you know, fun to do. And I do get those chances, but primarily, you know, being a sports-based business, really, there's not a whole lot of that. You know what I mean? And it just gets, you know, when we get really busy in our seasonal stuff, you know, I'm putting together anywhere from 5 to 15 pieces of artwork in a day, and they have to be ready for, I've got to pump them out to the customers. Customers have to approve them. They got to come back, and they got to be printed. And then there's a whole process, like
Right.
like any job. I mean, like it's just like when you were doing the nails and stuff. It's not just you just don't sit down and do nails. There's a process to all of that too.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And there's a process to every job out there.
Yeah.
But it just gets
Yeah.
I think anybody can say that their job gets monotonous at times.
Right. Oh, sure. Sure. I would 100% agree with you. And that's the thing. Like I've owned my own businesses. I've worked for different companies, and I love the fact when you own your own business that you're literally in charge of everything, because I mean, you know me, I like to, give orders and not take them. But
no. What?
Well, Tango, if you didn't know, I enjoy, I don't want to say being a bully, but I like to be the boss.
She's Italian, people.
And there you go. But, I think each one had its own.
Oh, yeah.
They had their blessings and their curses for each thing that I was doing, like when I was doing skincare, I absolutely loved it. It was just so much fun. But you're also touching people all day and you're doing facials, and there's that constant exchange of energy.
There's only one kind of facial I like.
Oh my gosh, there we go, leave it to Tango. He's always got to take it to another level. No,
hey, come on. That's why I have the friends that I have, because all of our minds go right straight to the gutter when certain keywords come up.
But when you're doing like those types of things, like you're working with people, it's just like, even if you shake somebody's hand, there's an exchange of energy there. It just happens because that's what we are. We're all energy.
Right.
And that's a very close, type of a service. So I was starting to get to the point where by the end of a week, I was totally beat. So I would maybe take a Monday off and just work Tuesday through Sunday. And then I started taking Mondays and Tuesdays off and just working Wednesday through Sunday. But I was also teaching skincare, and I was working for a plastic surgeon doing laser. So it's like, you're spreading yourself kind of thin, but you want to be involved in all of these things, and I was a big, person involved in AIDS awareness and, advocating for those individuals.
Well, and you were a surgeon too, weren't you?
Not a surgeon.
Oh, okay.
I was a surgical tech, and that kind of came after my love for skincare. I worked for a hospital in the area, and I became a surgical tech. And I actually my forte was cardiac surgery. I did cardiac and vascular, but I did every surgery. Right. I was on call for the most part. Like cardiac was my main surgery, but on call for anything, if it came up. General, ortho.
That's a pretty wide resume to go from surgical tech to nail tech to.
Yeah, well, it started out with, with me doing skincare and then the nails, but seeing what you can do in skincare led me to meeting like plastic surgeons and, just becoming familiar with a wide, array of all of these different things that keep you healthy and looking good. So I had a great networking group too, like there were so many people that we were involved with. And I think my horizons just got broadened very quickly. And I was very lucky at that point in time, to be able to do those things. But then getting into the surgical part of it, getting into cosmetic surgery, doing brow lifts and breast enhancements and, all of the things the cosmetics.
I don't need a breast enhancement. I need a breast D enhancement.
Yeah. Me too, Tango. But so I started, then it was a whole other side of things, because now here I am looking at just the human body in a different way, like I know how to fix the skin after you've had those surgeries, but what's involved in some of the other types of surgeries. And it's, it was just so amazing to me that I actually did get into it, and I, took all the classes that I needed to in order to become that.
Well, I think it's interesting. So you've got a whole career basically around physical attributes of people. You know what I mean? Whether it's surgical or cosmetic or whatever. So I think it's interesting that you had all these different facets of that genre of a career, I guess. I don't know what other word you would call it.
Yeah.
And same thing with me. Like all I've ever done since graduating high school is always been graphic based. You know what I mean? Whether it's designing signs or vehicle graphics or business cards, whatever, it's always been graphic based. But here we are, and it's funny that we have those very strong set of skills, but yeah, we like to do this show and we like to have our cocktails together. So it's I guess I'm trying to figure out a way to say it's interesting how you could have these groups of skills that revolve around a basic, like for me, graphics, people, or healthcare, skincare, and stuff like that.
Yep.
But yet still we find common ground on other things.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it's like all these interlocking circles, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's cool. How do you feel about, I don't want to get in trouble for bringing this up.
Just say it.
I mean, I've had several employees over the years, and I'm not really talking about any employee in particular. It's just a general discussion about, where do you draw the line as far as being like a friend to an employee, at work? Because I've always been, and I've said it 100 times, I'm not here to be your friend at work. I'm here to make money. I'm here to do my job. I want to do it well, but I'm ultimately here because this is a business I enjoy doing, and I want things in and out the door in a fashionable way, and make a profit, obviously. Outside of work, I'll do anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You want to, you want to go to a bar, have a couple beers, you know what I mean? You want to hang out and have a couple of tokes in the car. I don't care. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I just, and I get, people think I'm just the biggest asshole in the world because at work, I really don't want to hear about, I shouldn't say I don't want to hear, but I don't want to spend 20 minutes talking about your kids or talking about what happened, when you went shopping last night. You know what I mean? If it's just a casual, like, oh, so a funny thing last night, blah, 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 and you're done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. Do you have like an opinion on like, should business owners and bosses be friends at work, or should it be more? I think it's a tough thing to say because it probably depends on like the size of the company. You know what I mean?
Well, I think I would agree with you 100% when it comes to the size of company.
Because only
if you've got 5 people that work in your, in the same 4 walls, then of course you're going to have a friendlier way of doing business.
Right.
But ultimately, I think there should be a separation. If there is a boss and an employee relationship there, then it should be just that. You can have a friendlier approach, I think, when you're conducting business. Now, if you guys decide to go out for drinks and stuff after, or, you celebrate birthdays, or you get together and have holidays together, or whatever the case may be, outside of work, I think that's totally fine, as long as that employee is under that understanding that when we're back in the office, I'm your friend outside, but I'm ultimately your employer. So you need to respect that. And there needs to be boundaries within the office.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think I've seen it, in a lot of different places where employees and upper management, let's just say that, are too friendly. And I think it creates a confusing workplace. And I think it leads to employees who don't get what they think they deserve, feeling like, well, maybe they got it because
they're a favorite or
correct,
they're, yeah.
correct. That's why
I would agree with
yeah,
you.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
I just like to keep it professional at work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You could do the
Yep.
little joke or ha-ha around the water cooler, sort of say.
Yeah.
But I don't want to spend the majority of the day, with chit-chat in my ear.
Right.
Well, one, I have extreme OCD. So, somebody talking in my ear while I'm trying to do something is not going to happen. You're probably going to get stabbed.
Yeah. And I mean, I have problems like that too. Like sometimes, I mean, I'm not really a boss right now. In the job I do, I'm actually under several people.
I wouldn't mind being under several people.
I knew it. I gotta be really careful.
I can see you like that. Well, I'm just gonna say it.
I'm just gonna say it. I'll have to deal with it. But yeah. So I have a couple of, I have my main boss, but then I have my manager too that I work under. So I'm friendly with them, and we have a great relationship, but they're my bosses, like I have respect for both of them. So I would never go to my boss and say, because we have a friendly relationship, I would never go to her and say, hey, is it okay if I have, 6 weeks off instead of, my normal 4,
Right.
I would never do that, because it's just inappropriate. And plus it looks bad, and I'm a firm believer, if it looks bad to somebody else, then it's bad,
Right.
like you shouldn't be doing that, because in the business I work in now, I mean, I'm in public health now. So we have nurses, we have so many different people that work, we have children with special needs programs. So we have special educators and we have service coordinators and we have, I don't want to call us receptionists, but we kind of are, and we have our own specialty areas. But we do so many different things in public health, so it's really important for people to be present and understand the hierarchy of authority, because if something's handed down by the state and it's implemented into our, practices, then it's coming from the state, it goes to our director,
Right.
and then it's handed down to us. So we have to be respectful of the chain of command in order to achieve the results that are supposed to come out of a whole public health,
Right. And I have to say, I have the
situation.
utmost respect for anybody who works in any level of healthcare.
Mhm.
'Cause there's a lot of things I just wouldn't be able to do. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah,
I'd be skeeved out or grossed out, or I'd vomit on somebody. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
it's funny because we had a gentleman in the store the other day, and this is probably the second or third time it's happened to me. And I don't want to put a negative spin on it or anything, but it's funny how, so this gentleman had an issue with his arm, and he only had, I think, 3 fingers on there or something like that, and the arm was smaller. And I don't think anything of it. You know what I mean?
Right.
But like I said, it's like the third time that it's happened. And obviously they don't think anything of it. You know what I mean?
Right,
He extended his hand out for me to shake, and I just shook his hand. You know what I mean? And I had somebody comment afterwards, like, "Well, you just put your hand right out there." It's like, well, why wouldn't I?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not like I'm going to catch 3-finger disease. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
It kind of took me back that the comment was made, because it didn't bother me at all. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I know there's other aspects of like the medical field that there's no way I could do it. It's
Yeah.
like I could never take care of my mother and have to do the bathing and all that other stuff. I just know I couldn't do it. And I know people who have, like taking care of their mothers,
Right.
taking care of their grandmothers, and
Yeah.
it's a breed of people that can do that.
Yeah.
I practically vomit when I see the cat vomit.
Yeah. But, I can understand that part of it too, because the things that I've been involved in are really involved, like I've never been the kid that was like, okay, here's the easy situation and here's the most challenging situation. I was always the
And
kid
it's always
that
like, what's the hardest test you got?
What's the hardest thing? Because I'm going to do it. I'm going to overcome it. And then I'll be on to something else, probably own whoever made whatever I had to overcome, But I just was always that way. But I have this mind too that I constantly have to be learning. It's like even when you and I are talking, I'm like a 3-year-old. I'm like, but why, Tango? Why?
Well, it's funny you just said that because, and I've been trying to control it. I can't tell you for how long, how many decades, but I waste so much fucking money on just technology bullshit stuff. Like I'll buy something just because I want to see how it works.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But do you think it's like the buying the better mousetrap kind of thing? Or do you think it's the...
I think it's a little bit of both. You know what I mean? It's like, it's like, oh, this one says it could do that. You know what I mean? It's like, it really doesn't, but it was cool to have it just because, I wanted to plug it in and turn it on and figure out how it worked and what, I do that with a lot of different, a lot of things, especially technology wise. I do it with software too.
Yeah.
I have a huge curiosity on how software works and how technological items work. Mm-hmm. So, if somebody could just stop me.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing. I mean, technology is ever changing and that is your business. I mean, you rely so heavily on technology to complete all of the tasks that you do in your business.
Yeah, but a lot of it is just,
just because you like it and you enjoy it.
Because my mind, I just want to, it's like, wait, what is that? I just want to get it. And then, I wish I could buy it, play with it for a week, and then send it back.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that all the time. But here's a question. Have you ever feel like you didn't want to be the boss anymore?
Yes.
So do I sometimes. Sometimes it would just be nice just to go in and have a 9-to-5 job. You don't have to think about ordering shit. You don't have to think about anything else but what you're told to do. Yep, right. I'll do that.
Right.
What's next?
Yep.
Instead, you gotta think about production schedule. You gotta think about the ordering schedule. Make sure you got the stuff there to do the jobs. And and then you've got assemblies and
yes. Yep.
Sometimes it would just be nice to just be one of the people in the line. It just says, okay, today you're doing this, this, and this. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Go off and do it. And, at the end of the day, you go home, you don't have a worry in the world. You don't have to think about, are the bills being paid tomorrow or, who's not getting a paycheck this week,
Right. Yeah.
There's been times where, I've felt that way where it's like,
I just wish that I wasn't the boss just for a while.
But then I couldn't take the days off that I wanted to.
Yeah. And that's one of those things, that's one of the benefits of having your own business. Yeah, that you may not be making your portion of the business, but you have people working for you, so you're going to make your paycheck, Correct. But I think, now, being in public health, I decided that now I've been in public health for 6 years, and stepping away from actually doing everything on my own was kind of, I don't want to say comforting, but for lack of a better term, comforting, because like you just said, I don't worry about where my paycheck's coming from. I can take time off. I can go on vacation. Yep. I have holidays off, But on the other hand, being in public health, if something goes down again, like for example, COVID, and we're the frontline people.
COVID 26.
Yeah. I mean, let's hope that doesn't happen. I'm going to,
Oh my God, if that happens, I'm leaving the country.
Yeah. I don't
I'm going to find an island somewhere, sell a kidney or two.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't think anybody in our department can handle another COVID again, but I think with that being said and it being over and done with, we survived it. We got through it. We learned some things. So I would like to hope that maybe,
with all
if
the
it came
information
around,
and disinformation.
Yeah, that maybe now, if that was to come up again and it was the same group of people, like if it was still us in there taking the commands from the state, then we knew what to do with it, right. So, but it's still really nice to just be able to just do my day. and then come home and have dinner with my husband and, have our show and hang out with you guys. So it's.
There's something to be said for both sides of that coin. You know what I mean? There's obviously there's a lot to be said for, owning your own business. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And it takes a certain type of person. Not everybody can run their own business,
No.
But you're responsible for everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where there's something to be said for just being an employee. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You come in on time, do your job, you go home, and you don't have to worry about, did the checks get cashed today? Did I make my deposits?
Yeah.
All the bills paid,
Mm-hmm.
There's,
yeah.
You could, I can see, and I'm sure you can, we've both been through similar, career type things, as far as owning businesses and working for people.
Yeah.
But there's pros and cons for both sides of that.
Oh,
of
absolutely.
That thing,
Yeah.
I don't know. Sometimes I wonder, all the time if I should have taken computer science and programming instead of graphics design, but I don't know if I would enjoy the computer programming as much. You know what I mean? Like I love doing websites and building, and as much as I despise math,
mm-hmm.
I love Excel spreadsheets. I can't explain it. I think it's the challenge. If you came to me and said, I need this spreadsheet to do this, this, and this, and this, and that's and it's got to equal this total at the end.
Yep.
I love that challenge, and I can work it out. I can work it out all the time. I had one of my ex used to be a manager in local Walmarts,
mm-hmm.
and it would take him hours at the end of the week to figure out all these things on a spreadsheet. And he was doing all this math. And it's like, why don't you just tell me what you needed to say at the end? And he's like, what do you mean? It's like, well, tell me what it's got to equal at the end and what your variables are that go into it. And I can write an Excel spreadsheet to do it for you.
Yeah.
And it took me like an hour or two to come up with it. It went over so well that other managers were like, can I get a copy of that?
Can you do that?
I should have sold it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But again, I hate math. I can't even tell you how much I hate it, but I love the challenge of what do you need that spreadsheet to do?
Yeah. Well, and I mean, that's the thing, like the Excel spreadsheet actually has the formulas in it, but if you don't know how to utilize the formulas, then you don't know how to make up the spreadsheet to do what it is you need to do.
Yep.
So, but, just one last thing on this. I think that, going back, because you said work ethic maybe would have been too harsh of a word, but I don't know if that's really true, because I think that people who own their own businesses have a certain work ethic. Like you're driven, you're determined, you will at any cost do what you have to do in order to survive and accomplish what your end goal is going to be. Right. I mean, at least that's been my experience with coming in contact with a lot of other business people.
Yeah. My problem in the beginning was that I didn't pay attention to the whole work-life balance type thing.
Mm-hmm.
So probably the first 6 years of being in business for myself was just getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, working till 8, 9, midnight, go to sleep, get back in the morning, and do it all over again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that creates a lot of stress in a relationship. You know what I mean? I remember my wife at the time was just like, are you going to spend any time with us this weekend? It's like,
yeah,
I got 1,500 chores to do. You know what I mean? And, do you want a house to live in? Do you want a car? Do you want, which is the wrong thing to say because, that's just being a total dick about it. Like my job's more important than yours, but.
Right.
It's the reality. You know what I mean? It's like, we're trying to build this business. The only way to do it is to put the time in.
Yeah. But I also think with that work ethic that you had to be accomplished, I think if it ever came down to it where you decided that you didn't want to be a boss anymore, would carry over to
you'd probably get a job. You'd probably get a upper management or something like that. Yeah.
So like right now I'm in a position where it's like I'm not a manager in any way, shape, or form, but I do a lot of things
But
for
you're
my.
Italian. You know how to tell people what to do. And if I had to tell you twice.
Well, that's not a derogatory statement in any way, shape, or form because he's right. I will give you the how to and how for if it's warranted.
That's the one thing that's always drove me crazy, whether it was my kids or people I work with, is having to repeat myself. You know what I mean? It just drives me crazy. It's like, I just told you what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, really, I think that you would have that same determination no matter what it is you were doing, because I certainly do, like
Wow.
I don't need to be told what to do because I know in my job what needs to be done on a daily basis. So,
and we're afraid to tell you.
And people are afraid. No.
Get a back slap.
No, but I think my bosses appreciate that they don't have to constantly be on me saying, no, Angela, did you do this?
Right.
Did you do that? No, because I've already done it.
And part of that too is, I think as a business owner, you got to have a certain level of confidence. You know what I mean? You got to be confident in what you're telling your customers that you can do and do well.
Yes.
I mean, there's been some things where I was like, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
Then afterwards, you're trying to figure out how to do it and make it, look professional.
Yeah.
But
the drive.
The drive.
Yeah.
Confidence.
Confidence.
The confidence of it. And again, like you said, I mean, that confidence can be used in other things. So when I was working at High Roller Screen Printing and just getting ready to buy it, I was 22, lived in a mobile home. Not that there's anything wrong with a mobile home. I grew up in one and, I had no problem with that. But had no credit to my name.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And went into the bank and wrote my proposal up, gave it to them, hounded the fuck out of this poor guy. I think he was about ready to have a either a witness protection program or a what's the
he had his own special guard with him.
Right. But what's the thing where you're not allowed so many feet and stuff?
Like a restraining order.
I thought he was going to have one of those done on me. You know what I mean? But it paid out because the determination. You know what I mean? Paid out in the end, you know what I mean? And I was able to get an $85,000 loan with no credit history.
Yeah.
And again, it's just those three things: writing a good business plan, being determined, and showing them that I was confident that I could run the business.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that is very true too, because if somebody's handing you money, especially a good chunk of money like that, they want to make sure that the payback is going to be there. They don't want somebody coming in and saying, yeah, I think I'm going to run a business.
Right.
If you could give me $85,000, that would be great. I'm probably going to sell lollipops. I could maybe make, $85,000 with that. They don't want that. They want to see,
what are your plans?
That's right.
What are you going to, where do you see the business in 5 years and 10 years and stuff like that? Yeah.
Yeah. How are you going to change with the, with the economy changing and with, most things are like a 5-year plan. You can't go further than 5 years because anything past 5 years, everything prior to it has become obsolete,
But you just did a perfect segue all the way back around to the beginning about technology, staying ahead of the game of your competitors, knowing, and again, I think you can apply it to everything from selling vehicles to a hair and nail salon to graphics business, printing business. Yep. You need to know what you're up against. You know what I mean? Yeah. You can't, you never would have survived if all we ever did was screen printing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We had to adjust and add and evolve into adding all these other parts of the business in there. Mm-hmm. And the nice thing is they're all related, to a degree. And, once artwork is created, it can flow throughout the shop or any other department. So that's obviously a big plus.
Yeah.
But I just think, if you're going to run a business, you need to pay attention to, the new things coming out, no matter what your business is, new things coming out. And, well, look at even nails now. They do the UV thing on the nails now. They're instant, and they're instantly hard and ready to go.
Yeah. Yep. You don't have to wear those funky flip flops out anymore if you don't want to. Put your shoe right back on.
I was using UV glue upstairs today.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
I had to fix the Tango sign.
Yeah.
So I used the UV adhesive to hold the light strips in place.
Yep.
Because you hit it with the spotlight and it cures almost instantly on.
Yeah.
I think
this was a good talk, I think, today.
Yeah, and if anybody has anything they want to say or talk to us about, please give us a call or drop us a line. One more time, please like, share, follow us on Amazon, Spotify, Apple, iHeart, YouTube, SiriusXM, or whatever the hell you listen to. We're on there. We're finally getting pop-ups now. I'm so far behind posting the new episode from last week. But when I posted it, my Apple podcast player popped up and said there's a new episode of Tango Talks.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you don't need the Podbean app anymore. It pops up through the native app now. So I saw that. I was like, oh, that's the first time it's done that. That's so cool.
Oh, great. I didn't even notice that mine had done that. But I actually, when I was listening to it, it was already there and geared up, ready to go.
Oh, cool.
So it was like in my history of listening.
And that's off the native
that
Apple?
Was off of the Apple, the little symbol podcast. Yeah.
Oh,
yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
I like to hear that. I like to hear that. It still freaks me out when I play it in the car and I see our little logo come up on the car screen. I was like, that's so freaking cool.
It's us.
It's us.
We're starstruck.
All right. You want to tell people what they're looking forward to for next year?
Next year?
Or next week. Hopefully we're here next year.
Yeah. So next week, we're going to talk about our dreams. Well, I mean, you could talk about your dreams. Like we might just touch on like, what do we see ourselves doing, in the next, 5 years or whatever. Or we could be talking about dreams or nightmares, like, are you having the typical ones? Like, are your teeth falling out? Are you running and somebody's chasing you? Like those types of things. Falling off a building, jumping, those types of things.
That'll be interesting.
Let's hear your thoughts on that. So call in or text us at 315.
I don't think it's a 315. Is it a 3? Oh, it is a 315.
315-801-9655, or you can get us at talk@tangotalks.live.
Beautiful. All right, folks. Thank you for listening in, and let's start getting those phone calls in here and make this a lot easier for us.
Yeah. Until next time.
Skull. Once again, thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We hope you were mildly entertained. If not, who cares? Tango Talks was recorded in front of a totally digital audience and is a division of HM Print Design, LLC. Please do us a favor and like, share, follow everywhere you can. Till our next cocktail, this is Angela and Tango saying Skull.